Okay, we're ready.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Vern Cromartie. I am a professor of sociology and chairman of the sociology department at Contra Costa College in San Pablo, California. The title of my presentation is Pan-Africanisms and Africanisms among people with a Gullah Geechee heritage, lessons for young people and future generations in Africa and the diaspora. My presentation is organized as follows. First, I will talk about the scope of my research. Then I will go into how I went about the research in terms of methodology. Third, I will discuss some of my findings, and then I will close by talking about the implications of my research. So now let me move on to the scope of my presentation in the form of 6 objectives. One objective is to examine Pan-Africanisms and Africanisms as social forces among people of Black African descent with a Gullah Geechee culture heritage. A second objective is to utilize a Du Boisian, Afrocentric, and etic perspective to offer some research findings regarding the Gullah Geechee culture heritage. A third objective is to offer young people and future generations in the diaspora and Africa 4 lessons on the way tangible actions and outcomes have resulted because of Pan-Africanisms and Africanism among people of Black African descent with a Gullah Geechee culture heritage. Now, moving on to slide 4. Slide 4 presents objective 4, 5, and 6. A 4th objective on my paper is to exemplify Demark Vesey, Gullah Jack, Abraham, John Hoyce, Cornelia Walker Bailey, and Emory S. Campbell as Gullah and Geeches who have engaged in Pan-Africanism and the continuation of Africanisms. A 5th objective is to examine how youth and future generations can get to know the past, live in the present, and get ready for the future. A 6th and final objective is to address some implications of my research. Now I want to turn to my methodology. In terms of my research method, I use a mixed methods approach consisting of participant observation, a qualitative survey, and the case study. In terms of my research techniques, I use field notes, digital photographs, content analysis of primary and secondary source documents, including autobiographies, correspondence, collections of essays, biographies, scholarly books, and scholarly articles, in-depth interviews, and personal communication. Now, moving on to slide 6. Slide 6 talks about the Afrocentric perspective of W.E.B. Du Bois. In 1962, W.E.B. Du Bois became one of the first persons, if not the first, to use the term Afrocentric long before Molefi Asante. During that year, Du Bois wrote that his perspective was, quote, unashamedly Afrocentric, but not indifferent to either the impact of the outside world upon Africa or Africa upon the outside world, unquote. He emphasized that his Encyclopedia Africana was designed to, quote, have an, quote, Afrocentric emphasis, unquote, wherein Africa and people of African descent would be the central focus. And you will find that quote in a publication called Proposed Plans for an Encyclopedia Africana that was published on November 15, 1962 in Accra, Ghana by the Secretariat for an Encyclopedia Africana. So again, long before Molefi Asante used the term Afrocentric, Du Bois used it too. Now moving on to slide 7, research finding number 1, definition of the term Gullah. The term Gullah refers to antebellum Black men, women, and children who were born in Africa and came to the USA in bondage in the language they brought with them. Gullah people primarily came from the following areas: Senegal, where you have the Wolo; Sierra Leone, where you have the Mende; Ghana, where you have the Akan; Nigeria, where you have Igbo, Ibibio, and Yoruba, and Angola, where you have Mbundu. Gullah also refers to the pidgin or Creole language the Gullah people brought with them from Africa. It was a mixture of pidgin English, African languages, American Indian words, and Spanish words. Gullah draws on the ideas of this term, this definition I offer to you, draws on the ideas of Tony Houston, Lorenzo Del Turner, and some research I had previously done. So again, Gullah was a mixture of pidgin English, African languages like Wolof, Mende, Ibibio, Igbo, Mbundu, Tree, etc. Now I want to move on to slide 8, some key aspects of the Gullah culture. In terms of food, we in the Gullah culture, we eat rice, we eat hoppin' john, we eat grits, we eat okra, we eat white corn, we eat boiled peanuts, we eat pumpkins, we eat watermelons, fish, poultry, and the like. In terms of our language, we use Gullah, we use Ebonics, we use Standard English, and the like. In terms of folklore, we pass down from generation to generation animal tales such as the Uncle Remus stories and the signifying monkey, Stagger Lee, Shine, John Henry, and the like. We also have other ideas, norms, and material culture. We have ideas in the form of values such as respect for the elders, loyalty to family, spirituality, and the like. We have norms such as attending church, singing the Negro spirituals, also known as the sorrow songs, in the home and church. We do the ring shot as a spiritual endeavor. We believe in taking our bodies to other Black people for burial. We believe in birthing babies through midwives. We believe in entrepreneurship. We have material culture in the form of material products such as quilting, basketry, carpentry, brick masonry, blacksmithing, and the like. Now, slide 9 presents research finding number 2, the definition of the term Geechee. The term Geechee refers to a group of Gullahs and their descendants who escaped from slavery, joined the Seminole Nation as Maroons, and fought in the 3 Seminole Wars as partisans. Many Gullahs became part of the Seminole Nation, wherein they united with American Indians of Muscogee Creek descent and fought 3 wars against the USA, including the First Seminole War, which lasted from 1816 to 1818, the Second Seminole War, which lasted from 1835 to 1842, and the Third Seminole War, which lasted from 1855 to 1858. Now, this is key. Every original Geechee was a Gullah, but every Gullah was not a Geechee. And this definition draws on the ideas of Thomas Jessup, Lorenzo Del Turner, Sterling Brown, and myself. Now I want to move on to slide 10. Slide 10 talks about saltwater Geechees and freshwater Geechees. Freshwater Geechees refer to Geechees born on the mainland and inland counties of Georgia and elsewhere. Saltwater Geechees refer to Geechees born on the barrier islands of Georgia, including St. Simon's Island and Sapelo Island. This definition draws on my ideas and Cornelia Walker Bailey, as well as my mother. Cornelia Walker Bailey and I are insiders with an Emic perspective because she is a saltwater Geechee and I am a freshwater Geechee. And that's what my mother called herself, a freshwater Geechee. Moving on to slide 11, key quote on the Emic and Etic perspectives. Packer said that the Etic viewpoint studies behavior as from outside of a particular system. In contrast, he said the Emic perspective results from studying behavior as from inside the system. So I have an Emic perspective because I am a Geechee and a Gullah. Now, I want to move on to slide 12. Slide 12 talks about insiders and outsiders. Insiders refer to people from inside the Gullah Geechee culture heritage with an Emic perspective of view. Outsiders refer to people from outside the Gullah Geechee culture heritage with an Etic perspective of view. I possess an Emic perspective of view because I can trace back my Gullah Geechee heritage for 6 generations. Now here's a chart that shows my family clan. So generation 1, a woman by the name of Margaret Hill Wells married a man by the name of Abraham Wells. Margaret Hill Wells was a Gullah and Abraham Wells was a Gullah. Then in the 2nd generation, a woman by the name of Sarah Wells Morgan married a man by the name of Alexander Morgan. Sarah Wells Morgan was a Gullah and Alexander Morgan was a Gullah. He lived from 1825 to 1938. He lived to be 113 years. All right, Bessie Frazier married Sidney Frazier. Bessie Feechie and Sidney Frazier was a Gullah. Moving to generation number 3, Matilda Morgan Frazier married Jordan Frazier Sr. Matilda was a Gullah and Jordan was a Geechee. Generation number 4, Augustus Manson Frazier married Gladys McKeever Frazier. Augustus was a Geechee, Gladys was a Gullah. Generation number 5, Julia Frazier Cromartie Boyd married Jimmy Lee Cromartie. Julia was a Geechee, Jimmy was a Gullah, and they produced me, the 6th generation. I am a Geechee. Now, in 2013, I published a book called Morgan Frazier Families and Chronicles of a Black Family with a Geechee and Gullah Heritage, in essays, interviews, research reports, documents, and photographs. It was published in 2013 in honor of the 90th family reunion of my family clan. In 2013, we had our 90th family reunion. In 2023, we will have our 100th family reunion in Scriven, Georgia, which is a little hamlet right on the edge of the Okefenokee Swamp, where we come from. Now, moving on. In 2016, I had my DNA analyzed by AfricanAncestry.com. And Rick Kittle sent me a report saying that my paternal ancestry goes back to the Akan people living in Ghana. It goes back to the Akan people living in Ghana. So my father's side, I am Akan. He also analyzed my maternal DNA, and he sent me a report saying that my maternal DNA goes back to the Yoruba people living in Nigeria. So on the one hand, my father has roots in Ghana among the Akan people, and my mother has roots in Nigeria among the Yoruba people. So I am both Akan and Yoruba by birth. Now, in 2017, I made a cultural expedition to Ghana. And here I am at Amina Castle outside of the male dungeon. And that was a pilgrimage for me, to return to the land of my roots. Now I want to move on to research finding number 3, development of the Gullah Geechee Culture Corridor as a federal designation. The Gullah Geechee Culture Corridor, Heritage Corridor, refers to the Scripper coastland designated by the National Park Service, stretching from Wilmington, North Carolina, down to St. Augustine, Florida, and 30 miles inland. It includes parts of North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. During 2006, James Clyburn, a Black member of the House of Representatives from California, played a major role in creating the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage by writing the authorization bill. Now, slide 19 shows you a map of the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage Corridor, which stretches from North Carolina down through South Carolina, down through Georgia, and into northeast Florida. And that's called the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage. Now, I want to move to slide 20, research finding number 4. Extension of the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage beyond 50 miles from the coast. The Gullah Geechee Heritage extends way beyond 30 miles from the Atlantic Ocean in Georgia. The Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage also extends way beyond 50 miles from the Atlantic Ocean in Georgia because of migration. Now, slide 21 shows a key quote on the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage extending beyond 30 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. In 2008, the legendary and great Emory S. Campbell published a book called Gullah Culture Legacies. And on page 7 in that book, he says, quote, as a direct link to the African continent and almost lost culture that exists in the Sea Islands of the United States, along a corridor stretching from the northeast coast of Florida, along the Georgia and South Carolina coastal shores to Wilmington, North Carolina, and little more than 50 miles inland at any point, is what is called, is Gullah, you'll find Gullah culture. But it goes way beyond the 50 miles. All right, slide 22, research finding number 5. Black migration patterns in the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage. Black migration in the state of Georgia played a major role in the spread of the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage beyond 30 miles, both before and after the Civil War. Now, in 1948, Lorenzo Dow Turner became one of the, wrote an article called Problems Confronting the Investigator of Gullah. And in the article, he said, quote, the Gullahs are and have been continually moving westward and northward. And he was saying that we carry our speech patterns with us. So he said, if a person is doing research on Black people in this country, in Alabama, Mississippi, elsewhere, they also need to know that, that Gullahs are in those areas because of migration. Now, moving on to slide 24, Africanisms. The term Africanisms refers to survivals from African cultures that can be found among Gullah Geechee people and other Black social groups in the USA, including the Creoles of Louisiana. It includes both non-material culture and material culture. 5 key Africanisms found in the Gullah Geechee Culture Heritage are, number 1, the Negro spirituals. Number 2, the ring shot ritual. Number 3, the animal tales. Number 4, a rice-based cuisine. And number 5, the Gullah language. Now, moving on to slide 25, Pan-Africanism. As I use the term Pan-Africanism, I am referring to an international form of Black nationalism that involves racial solidarity and collective action around economic nationalism, political nationalism, and cultural nationalism. People of Black African descent with a Gullah Geechee heritage who will be exemplified in the lessons include Denmark Vesey, Gullah Jack Pritchard, Abraham, John Horace, Cornelia Walker Bailey, and Emory S. Campbell. Moving on to slide 26. There are 4 lessons. Slide 26 presents 4 lessons for young people and future generations in Africa and the diaspora with special reference to Africanisms and Pan-Africanism. Number 1, lesson number 1. We need to preserve Africanisms as a tangible action and outcome. For example, we need to pass on the Gullah Geechee culture heritage from generation to generation. Number 2, we need to engage in Back to Africa culture expeditions as a tangible action and outcome. For example, we need to make trips to Africa to study and get to know continental African people and their cultures. Number 3, we need to study Black history about the diaspora in Africa. For example, we need to read about the Pan-African activities of Vesey, Gullah Jack, Abraham, John Horse, Cornelia Walker Bailey, Emory S. Campbell. And number 4, we need to know the past, we need to live in the present, and we need to get ready for the future. Now, moving on to slide 27. Slide 27 presents Vesey. Vesey was born in around 1767 in St. Thomas. He died on July 2nd, 1822 in Charleston, South Carolina, after he was hanged. He served as the primary organizer of a rebellion of enslaved Black people in 1822, which was betrayed by house servants. If you go to Charleston, there's a statue of Vesey, and you see that statue to your left on the slide. Moving on. Slide 27 shows Gullah Jack Pritchard. He was born in Angola. He died on July 12, 1822 in Charleston, South Carolina, after he was hanged. He served as the second in command and spiritual leader of a rebellion of enslaved Black people in 1822, which was betrayed by house servants. We have no photographs of him, of course, but there's a painting that you see to the left by Najee Dorsey. All right, moving on to slide 29, Abraham. Abraham was born around 1787 in Georgia or Florida. He died in Oklahoma during 1870. Abraham served as a warrior in the Seminole Nation during the First Seminole War and Second Seminole War. Abraham reached the status of a war chief during the Second Seminole War. Abraham spoke for the Seminole Nation during a number of negotiations with military personnel from the USA. The image you see of Abraham comes from a book by John T. Sprague that was published in 1848. And Abraham was a primary Black war chief during the Second Seminole War. Slide 30 presents some information about John Horse. John Horse was born in 1812 in Florida. He died in Mexico in 1882. He served as a warrior in the Seminole Nation during the Second Seminole War. He also became a war chief. He reached the status of a war chief during the Second Seminole War. He spoke for the Seminole Nation during a number of negotiations with military personnel from the USA. He established a Seminole settlement in Mexico in 1850 in Nacimiento, Coahuila State, and is still there. The image that you see of John Horse comes from a book by John T. Sprague that was published in 1848. Now moving on, slide 31 shows the late great Cornelia Walker Bailey. She was born on June 12, 1945 on Sapelo Island, Georgia. She died October 15, 2017 in Brunswick, Georgia. She served as a community leader on Sapelo Island among Gullah Geechee people and went on a 1989 cultural expedition to Sierra Leone. She's the co-author of a wonderful book that was published in 2000 called God, Dr. Buzzer, and the Belito Man. A saltwater Geechee talks about life on Sapelo. The picture that you see of her is Cornelia Walker Bailey and her lovely mother, Hetty Bryant Walker, who died in 1999. Moving to the next figure, Emory S. Campbell, the great Emory S. Campbell. Thank God he's still with us. He's still living. He was born on October 11, 1941 on Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. He serves as a community leader on Hilton Head Island and St. Helena Island among Gullah Geechee people and went on the 1989 cultural expedition to Sierra Leone. In 2008, he wrote a wonderful book called Gullah Culture Legacies, a synopsis of Gullah traditions, customary beliefs, art forms, and speech on Hilton Head Island and Facenio Sea Islands in South Carolina and Georgia. And this is a photograph of Emory S. Campbell that comes from 2018. Now, moving on to slide 33. Slide 33 talks about young people and future generations and what they should know about the past. Number one, young people and future generations should need to be able to answer these three questions. Number one, who am I? Number two, am I really who I am? Number three, am I all I ought to be? Number two, young people and future generations need to know the history of their culture heritage. And number three, young people and future generations need to know the history of their family clans. Moving to slide 34. Young people and future generations should live in the present. Number one, young people and future generations need to emphasize education and the development of stable careers for both males and females. Number two, young people and future generations need to embrace spirituality versus religiosity. That is, be a spiritual person versus a religious person. Number three, young people and future generations need to develop short-range and long-range goals. Now I want to talk about slide 35, which deals with how young people and future generations need to get ready for the future. Number one, young people and future generations need to never forget the history of the Black race before or after 1482. Number two, young people and future generations need to give up self-hatred and contempt for our history and culture. In contrast, we need to love ourselves and love our history and culture. Number three, young people and future generations need to give up the N-word as a term of endearment. Again, we need to abandon the N-word as a term of endearment. Get rid of it. Number four, young people and future generations need to strive to develop unity as a family and as a race. Number five, young people and future generations need to learn to stick together as a family and as a race. Number six, young people and future generations need to build new institutions and save old institutions. For example, strive to repeat the donation of $50,000 by my cousin Jimmy C. Douglas to Savannah State. Now I want to move to slide 36. All right. My cousin Jimmy C. Douglas, who was a freshwater Geechee like I am, donated $50,000 to Savannah State. Who was Jimmy C. Douglas? Jimmy C. Douglas was the first man in our family clan to get a BA degree. He received his BA degree in agriculture from Savannah State in 1948 and became a farmer in Georgia. He worked as a county extension agent in Jenkins County, Georgia for 28 years, from 1957 to 1985. He also served on the Jenkins County Board of Commissions for 12 years, from 1995 to 2006. In addition, he served as a member of the Board of Directors of Swainsboro Technical College. In 2013, he donated $50,000 to establish the Jimmy C. Douglas Scholarship Endowment at Savannah State to assist students who exemplify the qualities of leadership, sportsmanship, and community service. And again, Jimmy C. Douglas is in the middle of that picture holding that symbolic check. To his left is President Dozier, who was the president of Savannah State, and to his right is his wife, lovely wife, cousin Ellen Douglas. Now moving on. Slide 37 shows talks about a building name in honor of Jimmy C. Douglas in Millen, Georgia. All right. During 2017, the Jimmy C. Douglas Agriculture Center in Millen, Georgia, was renamed in honor of cousin Jimmy C. Douglas. It was based on the services he provided Jenkins County Extension Agent as a county commissioner. To the left, you'll see a 2018 image of cousin Ellen Douglas, the widow of Jimmy C. Douglas, myself, and a family friend holding a plaque celebrating accomplishment at our 95th family reunion of the Morgan Fraser family clan. So again, once a year, we gather near the Okefenokee Swamp to hold our family reunion. This year, we did it virtually. We had our 98th. In 2 years, we will meet face to face for our 100th family reunion. And we've been doing it since 1923. So again, Jimmy C. Douglas reflects the best of us. And again, he was the first man in our family clan to earn a BA degree, and he got it in agriculture from Savannah State. And he spent the rest of his life being like the George Washington Carver of Jenkins County. I want to move on to the 5 implications of my research. One significant consequence of my research is that it sheds light on Pan-Africanism and Africanisms as social forces among people of Black African descent with a Gullah Geechee culture heritage. A second significant consequence is that it sheds light on utilizing a Du Boisian Afrocentric and emic perspective to offer some research findings regarding the Gullah Geechee culture heritage. A third significant consequence is that it sheds light on offering young people and future generations in the diaspora and Africa 4 lessons on the way tangible actions and outcomes have resulted because of Pan-Africanism and Africanisms among people of Black African descent with a Gullah Geechee culture heritage. A fourth significant consequence is that it sheds light on exemplifying VC, Denmark VC, Gullah Jack Pritchard, Abraham, John Horst, Cornelia Walker Bailey, Emory S. Campbell as Gullahs and Geeches who have engaged in Pan-Africanism and Africanism and the continuation of Africanisms. A fifth and final significant consequence is that it sheds light on how you and future generations can know the past, live in the present, and get ready for the future by utilizing cousin Jimmy C. Douglas as an example of Geechee excellence. Thank you for any questions that you may have or comments.
Okay. Echo. Great. Thank you so much, Vern. Do we have any questions from the audience or from those online?
This is Nabantu. I have a question.
Yes.
I just want to know how familiar are you with the movement of the Geechee Gullah Geechee people getting their citizenship in Senegal?
You know, I know you mentioned that to me earlier when we had that brief conversation, and I would definitely like to know more about that because I'm interested in trying to get my citizenship for Ghana. And then my wife, I have a wife, and she has roots in Cabo Verde, and she's trying to get citizenship in Cabo Verde, but she's a 4th generation from there. Her family migrated from there in 1912. So I'm definitely interested. One of the major problems we're having right now, Mobutu, Nobantu, is holding on to the land that we have in Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, and South Carolina. Because like many other family clans, we have a lot of heirs property. And like I have property that I own in Georgia, and I also have property I own with about at least 500 other people as heirs property. And we've had that property in our family since the 1870s. So the challenge for us is to hold on to what we have, and we're constantly losing that. So there's a movement to try to hold on to our land. And that's a battle. And I think Queen Kent is going to be talking, I think tomorrow or so, but and I think she can go into greater detail about the battle that's going on in South Carolina. But we're having that same battle in Georgia. That same battle in Georgia. So hold on to our land.
I will share with you the information I have on
Okay.
One, the movement for the citizenship, and wow, the last thing you said, I'm drawing a blank on. Sorry about that. You mentioned another thing that I have some information on.
What I talked about, the land, the battle for land.
Oh yes. I don't know.
Land.
There's a brother named Russell Bean who does workshops every Thursday, and he's helping people who have air land to get control of the land. So I will send you that information as well if you can put your email in the chat.
Okay, will do.
We have a question from the audience.
Yes.
Yes, thank you, Doctor, for your presentation. Gullah and the issue. I see an identity issue there. And then your call on the youth to also rise and ensure that they secure the future. I tie that with that, the identity issue, your call on the youth. And I want to say that if you look at the US, the United States of America, if you look at the EU, you could clearly see that they've been able to help them think for themselves. They don't have identity crisis. But if you come to Africa, or diaspora, and those of us who are here, right from the time that Pan-Africanism became a formal political movement, because the identity crisis has been our power. At some point, we had to have liberty. And that was for the right, Pan-Africanism for the English side. In the same thing, even today, it is very difficult for us to see ourselves as one people, and that has always been our challenge. So what do you think we can do to overcome this identity crisis so that going forward, we can actually stand as one people with one voice and fight still happen? Thank you.
So Phil, can you repeat that question for me? Do you because my ear was kind of like it was kind of distorted a little bit by the sound.
Okay, is it better?
It's a little bit better.
All right, so I'll just try and increase my volume. Okay, yeah, I was saying that if you look at the very time that Pan-Africanism became a political movement, a formal political movement in the 1900s, right? You realize that identity was a problem, and identity has continued to be our problem as Africans or people of black origin, African origin. Unlike the US, unlike the EU, that have been able to found and make for themselves in terms of identity, we continue to face identity crisis. So looking at the Gullah and Geechee in terms of identity, describing them, and the calling of the youth of Africa to rise to secure the future, how do we manage to overcome our identity crisis where we find it difficult to perceive ourselves as one people with one political quality? How do we overcome that identity crisis so that we can stand as one people with one voice to secure our future? Thank you.
If I understand your question correctly, if I understand it, I would say my response to you is that we belong to multiple groups and we have multiple identities. On the one level, we have a Pan-African identity, but on another level, we also have these family connections. And sometimes those family connections reach to multiple groups, multiple culture groups, even among Black people. Like I would say, and I would say one thing to deal with that identity crisis, so to speak, would be to study the works of Jacques, or some people would say Diop, and study the works of Frantz Fanon, study the works of Kwame Nkrumah, study the works of Malcolm X, study the works of W.E.B. Du Bois, because they all talked about, to some extent, this issue about identity and these multiple groups that we belong to. So that would be one thing I would say. The other thing I would say is that one should be proud of who you are. It can be a both and. It's not an either or. It's not a matter of whether or not you're a Pan-Africanist and you're a Geechee. It's both. You could be a Pan-African and you could be a Geechee. You can be a Pan-African and you could be an Mbundu from Angola. You can be, so it's a both and. I would argue that it's a both and. But one thing we have in common is that we're all people of African descent. And that's what we have in common. And we kind of have a common oppressor, white supremacy. And the whole white supremacy movement, that's the enemy of all of us, no matter what we are. And the only difference between many of us is, say, like Geechees and people in, say, like Jamaica, is that they got dropped off in Jamaica and we got dropped off in Georgia. But we are the same people. We are the same people. Some of us got kidnapped and got brought to this country, got brought to the USA in bondage, and some people did not. We just happen to be the ones who got brought to this country in bondage. And there was something like 450,000 Black people or African people who were brought to the USA in bondage between 1526 and 1865. As a matter of fact, in Georgia, they were still bringing us in the 1860s. They were still bringing us in the 1860s. And there was another question, I think somebody put it in the chat. I think I saw it. Bantu, you had a question? You had presented a question to me?
One more question?
Yeah, you were talking about the Gullah Geechee who worked with the Seminole Wars.
Yes.
And my question was, were some of them enslaved, or were they free, or what?
Well, they had a system that was very similar to what some people would call indentured servitude. Is that we were more like comrades in arms. We were their comrades, especially between 1816 and 1818. We were comrade in arms. Between 1835 and 1842, during the Second War, we were comrade in arms. In 1855 to 1858, we were comrade in arms. You can see government. I published an article that I can send you about that particular era. Now, what happened once people got in Oklahoma, because everybody didn't make it to Oklahoma, no Bantu.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us during the wars got kidnapped and was returned back to enslavement. Some of us never left the Southeast, and some did. Some made it all the way to Oklahoma, and then some of them migrated to Mexico. Some people migrated from Florida to the Bahamas, some of our people, and they're on Andros Island. Some people left and migrated all the way to Nova Scotia and then went back to Africa. So there are Gullahs in Sierra Leone. There are people who made it all the way back. So we're all over the place. We're all over the place in terms of migration. But one thing we have in common is that those of us who are Geeches, we have roots to the Seminole Nation, and those were warriors. It was a warrior class.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that.
Let me say this to you. Those who went to Oklahoma got betrayed once the government started giving out money during the 1990s. Then there were 16 bands with voting rights in the Seminole Nation out in Oklahoma. Of those bands, 2 were Black. And then the American Indians kicked out the Black bands from the voting council once the money came. So war cannot split us up, but money did in Oklahoma. And I got a good friend by the name of Gary Rollinson, who's a professor of sociology at California State University San Marcos, he's done research around that issue about what happened when the money came. And it, the money came in the 1990s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thank you for the explanation.
Okay.
All right. I think that brings us to the end of this session. Another powerful session that we had today. Started out strong with Mama Bello today, talking about Haiti, and we've had some powerful student discussions around Pan-Africanism. You see, they are grappling with it. We are all grappling with what is Pan-Africanism, and if we achieve it, what would it look like? But it's very important that we have this discussion all week, which we will be having about what would it look like, and what would it take for us to get there truly, to be united culturally, politically, economically, and moving towards sovereignty. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us today.